You brought up Terhyon Nichols, another Ohio corner who might be interested in committing soon, potentially.
Yep.
He is, I mean, there's a group of schools here I feel like I name every single weekend: Kentucky, Pitt, Penn State, Michigan. He's in that group. Right now it's definitely feeling like Kentucky versus Michigan, which means more specifically it's Steve Clinkscale versus Vince Marrow.
Yeah.
And Mr. Marrow has not been scared to go public with his attacks on Michigan and recruiting and Harbaugh specifically. And just, they obviously used to work together in Kentucky, and they're battling over an Ohio kid that used to go to Kentucky a lot. So that's going to be a fun recruitment to watch the next couple of weeks. But he was on campus this weekend. How do we feel about Terhyon Nichols?
Yeah, Kentucky sure seems to talk. Well, I should say Vince Marrow sure loves to talk a lot, and he doesn't have very many recruiting wins over Michigan. So it's you love to see it. So yeah, with Terhyon Nichols, I think it's funny. I got a message right before we came on the podcast, and it was basically saying that that they kind of expect him to be in the class, but it's not a for sure done deal. And I can't say it's a done deal yet either, but I do think Michigan put themselves in an excellent spot for Nichols coming out of this weekend, and they sold Nichols on the fact that he could be CB2 next to Aaron Scott in the class. So they kind of sold the Ohio kid like kind of the same way of like, hey, you like the false potential of, hey, you and Bryce could play together to Aaron. But they kind of said, hey, you guys can be the 1 and 2 corners in this class, with Aaron obviously being the, the gem of the 2 out of the Ohio commits. But I do think that message resonated, and I think that visit did do pretty well. I mean, I think Michigan is. I'm hesitant to say that Michigan leads here because I don't know for sure, but the expectation now is that, if the sooner he announces his commitment, the better that bodes for Michigan. And I agree with that take. Somewhat trending towards putting in a future cast for Michigan, but not quite ready just yet. But again, if I were to guess today, I would say Michigan probably did enough to get his recruitment, and the growing belief is that he'll be in the class, but we'll have to wait and see whether that belief is true. And this is not, me speculating. This is from people I'm talking with who are saying this stuff. It's not me saying maybe this will happen, but I think Michigan has done themselves a pretty good job of getting in on some guys that when they weren't necessarily on the outside looking in, because the case of Gatlin Bear especially, I think they were right there at the top, 1 or 2, and probably the same goes for Nichols as well. So yeah, if they can land both of those guys out of Ohio, Michigan's continuing to establish those roots in the state, only bodes well for the future. But I really like that 1-2 class of Nichols in Scott for sure.
Yeah, I think we were just talking about the Scott and West pitch. I think you're spot on. This is where I think Scott potentially could like being the top guy here at Michigan. I think he's somebody who, I don't know if it was because you've brought up growing up an Oregon fan, right? Like, I don't think he feels that bond to Ohio State that West did. And I think he might kind of like the idea of blazing his own path. And then the most important part, what you just talked about, I think it's a fit thing. I think him pairing with Nichols is a good fit. Mm-hmm. And I think they both are man defenders that could see what Steve Clinkscale can do for them, right? I brought up with the Ohio State pitch to Bryce West, I said something about like, you're going to sell the guy on Marcus Lattimore. They can, because obviously he knows who Lattimore is or whatever. But like, I saw him, I knew Michigan was in trouble when he said something about Ohio State being DBU. I was like, they haven't been for a while, buddy.
Yeah.
all time, maybe. Yeah, but they haven't been for a while, right? So I always love talking about when you can point to results and what I can do for you, and you're the next guy, not the one I need you to turn things around, fix it, whatever. I think that's always a big positive. And Michigan has that in their favor with Steve Clinkscale. I'll brag about him all day, every day. What a great hire that's been.